You might notice that I don't normally wear a tie, but I thought the occasion deserved getting dressed up a little bit, um, get a bit formal and a bit special. Um, you might have actually seen this tie before, and maybe before that as well. It's a tie that's one of my Sophie made. Oh, I'd like to say yesterday, but she'd get embarrassed if I said that, so I won't say it. Probably about 7 years ago now. And so whenever I am up the front on the Father's Day weekend, I get to wear it with pride. And if you'd like one, just talk to Sophie. I'm sure she could still get some out for you. But I just want to echo what Liz prayed for and acknowledge in her prayer that we are blessed to have a lot of good people in our community here at Burwood. Men who are role models, who show us what it looks like to follow Jesus and to walk with him. So to all of you men, thank you for that. Thank you for the way you've inspired many, spoken into many lives, and been an example of that to us. There's a bit of commentary at the moment around, I guess in some ways around Father's Day, but there's social commentators and researchers who suggest that we actually have a masculinity crisis at the moment. They have looked at in schools that the boys and the young men are studying less and they're not achieving as well as they used to. That in the workplace, men are actually working less, rotating through jobs faster. That's when it comes to health and life statistics, men are often on the wrong end of most of them. And more of them are kind of wandering through life, not knowing what they should be doing, where they should be going, what their purpose is. And they're essentially, what a lot of commentators are saying is they're confused. And the researchers are looking into this, and it's surprising how many studies there are about masculinity. There's quite a few. One that I read this week, they were interviewing young men, generally between the ages of 20 and 35, and these men were saying, we don't actually know what good masculinity looks like. We don't have any reference for this anymore. And so that's leading them to, I guess, look for it in different places in different ways. And one study, let me tell you this so you know I'm not joking, out of the Psychology of Men and Masculinity, the title of the research was Masculinity and the Justification of Meat Consumption. And they found that one of the reasons men eat meat is because it makes them feel like real men. And so the researchers are saying we have this kind of void in our society, and men are looking for role models who can map out for them what it looks like to be a man and how to live. And so recognizing that void, some men have gone to Instagram, TikTok, social media, YouTube, and they are offering examples to this vast group of men about how to live, what it looks like to be a man, and they're giving out advice. And basically they're saying, look, this is what I did to become a man, and if you follow these steps, I too can make you into a man. The challenge with some of that is you're getting one perspective, and what they're finding, especially in the States, is it's leading to a real growth in this extremism of what it means to be masculine. But some would say it's not just a male role model crisis. If you have any female moles, go see your GP. a male mole rotter crisis. It's also that we have just a general crisis of good people to follow. Is that better? That's probably a bit easier to say. Because there's a lack of people who can we look up to see, hey, this is someone that I see how they live, I see what they do, and yeah, I admire that. I want to follow that. So who do you look to when you want to see what it looks like to be a genuine, authentic man, a genuine, authentic woman, but more so in our context, when you want to be a follower of Jesus? What does that look like? So we've been going through this series called Playlist, and we've been looking at songs that people love and why they love them. And today is the final song in the playlist, and the song that I've chosen is one that I really like, and it's called Yet Not I, But Through Christ in Me. And we're going to sing it after this, but I like it because it tells the story of what it looks like to follow Jesus, but also it's real, it's authentic, it's genuine, but it's also really deep and full of good meaning. And so I want to take you through some of the verses of the song and kind of unpack it a little bit from what it teaches us about how to follow Jesus. And the first verse, it says, "What gift of grace is Jesus my Redeemer? There is no more for heaven now to give. He's my joy, my righteousness and freedom, my steadfast love, my deep and boundless peace." And then goes on to say, "My hope is only in Jesus. My life is bound to his. I've got everything I have, but it's not me. It's through Christ." And what's fascinating about this is it counters what social media, what society is actually saying. If you look online, it's about you need to make yourself the man. You are the one who needs to build up. You need to do all these things to be the person that you should be. But this song is actually saying, well, hang on, no, there are no self-made followers of Jesus. That's not how you get there. You can't do all these things to kind of qualify as that. It's a decision you have to make for yourself. And I love this verse in Galatians because Paul says, "I've been crucified with Christ. I no longer live, but Christ lives in me. The life I now live in the body, I live by faith in the Son of God who loved me and gave himself for me." And you know, we can only follow Jesus if we're actually willing to give up who we are. We're only able to follow Jesus if we're actually willing to surrender all that we are to him and say, "I want to follow you. I'm not going to go my way. I'm actually choosing to give up all of that so that I can go your way instead." And while the rest of the world is all about, I guess, accumulating experiences, things, friends, whatever it might be, Jesus is actually saying, I want you to consider the opposite. I don't want you to accumulate things. I want you to be willing to give up things so that you can follow me. And the irony is, and Brad looked at this when he talked about better than life. The irony is that when we are willing to give up for Jesus, he says, I'm actually going to give you more than you ever thought you could have had. I'm going to take that void, and I'm going to fill it with more than you could have ever imagined that you could experience, that you could have had. There's this story of a young boy who was living, his father was quite wealthy, and the story goes that this boy died at quite a young age. He had a nurse that was caring for him, and when he passed away, the rich father had the funeral, and time kind of progressed on. Sometime later, the dad also passed away, and his estate was up for auction. And part of the estate was a little photo of this boy. Now, when it went up for auction, nobody was interested in it. Nobody wanted to buy it. But there was one lady up the back who said, Yeah, I'll bid for that. She didn't bid very much, but she won because no one else bid as well. And what she bid for was a little photo of this boy that she had cared for. He had really wound his way into her heart, and she loved him as her own son and missed him and wanted something to remember him by. And so she got the picture, and when she was holding it, she felt that in the back of it, there was this lump in the back of the photo, and it was just some brown paper on the backing. So she opened it up, and inside that she found the will to the rest of the man's estate. Because this dad, he said, whoever loves my son enough, they get everything else. And it's a really cool picture of what it is to follow Jesus. When you decide, I'm gonna commit to you, I want to accept your son. He's like, yeah, well, you do that, I'm going to give you so much more. I'm going to give you everything else. Whoever has the son has it all. And that's what this song is getting at. It's saying, if you're willing to give up, I'm going to give. And it's actually really countercultural, because it's talking about surrender. That if we are willing to give up what we have, if we're willing to bind our lives to Jesus, then there is a beauty and something in that is just otherworldly. It's different. And I love how it ends, because it creates this weird juxtaposition of contrasting values of God's way of living. Oh, how strange and divine, I can sing all is mine. Yet, it's not me, but it's what Christ is doing through me. And so it's really saying it's not about you. It's not about what you've done. It's not about what you've made. It's about who Jesus is. It's about what he's done. But then the song keeps going. So you can see there's some real depth to these lyrics. But it continues. And it paints this realistic picture of what it actually looks like to follow Jesus. It's not all perfect. Not everything always goes well. The night is dark. We walk through valleys. It's tough. It can get difficult. And I love this because it doesn't pretend that it's kind of rainbows and unicorns once you make a decision to follow Jesus. Because the reality is it's not. But it also avoids this continuum that we can either find ourselves on, where everything's always perfect, God is always good, life is amazing, nothing is ever going wrong. The reality is that's not true. On the other end of the spectrum, yeah, I'm choosing to follow Jesus. Oh, hang on, something didn't go right. Oh, God must not be good anymore. It's balancing these two out and saying, no, if you choose to follow Jesus, you make that commitment to him, but you will still experience stuff that you don't want to experience. And each of you could tell a story about that. But just because you experience that doesn't mean that God is not with you in that. It takes the stance that I know that even if it's dark, I'm not forsaken, because he's right by my side through this, whatever I'm experiencing. And then it goes on to talk about how it connects weakness and rejoicing. Now, if you have spent any time online and you have looked at any of these social media, influencers, anybody who's talking about what it means to be a man, you will not see them talking about rejoicing about weakness. That's just not talked about. Like, it is about being strong. It is about being physically strong, mentally strong. Avoid weakness at all costs. There was a YouTube ad for they called it a tactical hoodie. And basically their advertising was, the average hoodie is weak and flimsy. You're not a child, you're a man. So stop wearing so many layers to go outside. Get a tactical hoodie. That's kind of the picture we have of what it means to be a man from the world around us. But in following Jesus, he says, you are going to have difficult times, but I'm going to be with you through that. And in that weakness, that's where I'm strong. That passage comes from Paul in 2 Corinthians. Man, let me read you what he went through. You want to talk about strength or weakness and following Jesus? In 2 Corinthians, Paul says this: 5 times I've received from the Jews 40 lashes minus 1. They don't do 40 because that's the point where people die. 3 times I was beaten with rods. Once I was pelted with stones. 3 times I was shipwrecked. I spent a night and a day in the open sea. I've been constantly on the move. I've been in danger from rivers, in danger from bandits, in danger from my fellow Jews, in danger from the Gentiles, in danger in the city, in danger in the country, in danger at sea, and in danger from false believers. I have labored and toiled and have often gone without sleep. I have known hunger and thirst and have often gone without food. I've been cold and naked. Besides everything else, I face daily the pressure of my concern for all the churches. In Damascus, the governor under King Aretas had the city of Damascenes guarded in order to arrest me, but I was lowered in a basket from the window in the wall and slipped through his hands. You want to talk about someone who's been through some stuff? But this is what he says about it. I will boast all the more gladly about my weakness, so that Christ's power may rest on me. That is why, for Christ's sake, I delight in weakness, in insults, in hardships, in persecutions, in difficulties. For when I'm weak, then I'm strong. There's a guy called Stoyan, and he lived in an Eastern European country, and his father was a pastor, and his father was arrested for talking about Jesus. And they took him to a secret jail. They didn't know where he was. They couldn't go and visit him. But eventually they were told that he was being moved to a labor camp way out in the middle of nowhere. And if they wanted to, they would have an hour where they could come and spend time with him. And so Stoyan and his mum went and went to the police station. They waited there, and they were kind of taken into this big kind of field place within the fences. And they waited for about an hour, but their dad never showed up. And finally, this man came over carrying what looked like a bundle of rags and placed it on the table. And when they looked inside the rags, they didn't recognize the body until they saw the eyes, and they're like, no, that's Dad's eyes. This is Dad. And so they finally got to spend some time with their husband, with their father. They had not much time with him, but Stoyan remembers holding his dad's hand and saying, Dad, I'm so proud of you. And while they were there, his mum slipped his dad the one thing she knew he would have loved, and that was a little small New Testament Bible. But when she did it, one of the guards saw, and this guard came over, and he took it to the guy who was in charge, and the superintendent came down, and he told her in no uncertain terms, what you have done, that was just silly. Like, I can do the worst things to you and your family. I have all the power to do that. And she stood there just receiving these insults, this abuse, all these threats. And in the face of all of them, where she had no power to respond at all, she said to this man, you're right. You can beat us, you can hurt us, you can do everything you can to us. But nothing you do will ever separate us from the love of Jesus. That is strength and weakness. That is being oppressed and facing persecution and threats, but staying strong in that moment because she trusted that Jesus was there and that he loved her regardless. And these are people who show that It's not about what they have overcome, but it's about what Jesus has done. It's about who he is and what he has done for them. Stoyan's mum, and I think any follower of Jesus can actually say what she said because they know it's true. They know that they are loved. Not because of what they've done, not because of who they are, but because they are a child of God, because they're accepted just as they are. And I think this is really important because when you're searching for meaning and purpose and direction, often you can find your identity tied to what you do. And you can start trying to create this persona of who you think people think you should look like and you should be. And that can be exhausting. That can be tiring because you're trying to keep up with something that's always changing. Even as people work to express themselves in their own unique ways, that itself can be tiring because the challenge to be unique adds all this pressure on yourself. But the gospel presents such a different picture. It says, I don't have to fear anything because I know I'm forgiven. It says, my future is secure because I know the price has been paid. It says, it's not because of anything you did. It's not because of anything you could have done. It's because Jesus bled and suffered for your pardon, and he was raised to overthrow the grave. And so your sin has been defeated. It's truly gone. As we sung in that song, you cannot earn God's love. It's there. It's free. It's given. No amount of doing or achieving will get it. It's always there for us. We just need to be willing to accept it. You are loved by God, not because of what you have done. You're loved because of Jesus and what he has done. And he sees you and he accepts you and says, yeah, you're good. You're mine. You're perfect. And so your worth and your value and your being is infinitely invaluable, not because of anything that you have done, your strength, your brilliance, your academic abilities, what you have, what you own, how individual you are, how unique you are, but it's just because you are loved by God, and the depth of the love he has for you was shown by Jesus and the price he was absolutely willing to pay for you. That's the beauty of the gospel. This is the last verse. I want to invite the band up because we're going to sing this very soon. But I love how this song wraps up. It says, with every breath, I long to follow Jesus, for he has said that he will bring me home. Day by day, I know he'll renew me until I stand with joy before the throne. And it says that if you're a follower of Jesus, that you can trust his word. If he says he's going to do something, he's going to do it. If he says he's going to come back and bring you home, then he's going to come back and bring you home. If he says that he has for you a crown, then you can know that that's there. If he says he's going to be with you through it, then he's going to be with you through it. And followers of Jesus live with this sure hope in Jesus that one day the race is going to be finished and we're going to stand before God. We're going to stand with Jesus and we're going to be able to say, it wasn't because of anything I did. It was all because of what you have done for me. It's all because of what you're doing in me, and it's all because of what you will do in me. And this song wraps up by saying, yet not I, but through Christ in me. And if there's a masculinity crisis out there, I'm really glad to say that Burwood has a community here that is filling the gap. We have people, men and women, who know who they are, men and women who know who Jesus is, that know that they are loved by him. They know that the gospel is not about what they can do, but about what he has done for them. And we have a community of people who have experienced God's goodness, experienced his amazing grace, and said, yeah, we're going to live by this. We're going to follow him. And when bad things happen, they don't abandon their faith, but they walk with God through that, knowing he's right there with them, beside them. Not just him, but also a whole community of people who believe the same thing. And so I want to remind you that that is you. That is who you are. Keep being the kind of person who always points other people to Jesus. And so when they say, hey, that was amazing what you did, or when they say, hey, you are making a difference, or when they say, wow, how did you endure through that? You can say, not I, but through Christ in me. So I want to invite you to stand up. We're going to sing this song. And as we do, I hope you're reminded of your value, of your worth, but also reminded and challenged to take this call to follow Jesus seriously, continue to live it out in your life, and always be the kind of person who points other people to Jesus.